Prince Harry just got slapped with a final warning, and Meghan Markle is officially banned from the 2026 Invictus Games. In a stunning behind-the-scenes power move, Invictus Games CEO Dominic Reid has delivered an unthinkable ultimatum to Prince Harry, forcing him to choose between his legacy and his controversial wife. With tensions boiling over and sponsors raising red flags, Meghan Markle is being quietly pushed out, and the clock is ticking. What led to this explosive fallout? Why is the Invictus brand at risk? And how much longer can Harry hold it together under mounting pressure? What we've uncovered will shock you. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It started with silence. No press release. No Instagram post. No official announcement from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But behind closed doors, something monumental had just occurred. Prince Harry, the man who founded the Invictus Games to give wounded veterans a global platform of honor, had just received a direct and final ultimatum from the very CEO who helped him build it all, Dominic Reid. The message was as clear as it was devastating. Meghan Markle is not to be involved in the 2026 Invictus Games. Not as a speaker, not as a guest, not even as a distant presence in the crowd. She is, for all intents and purposes, banned. How did things unravel this far? Why would a woman once embraced by royal supporters now be viewed as a threat to the integrity of a veterans competition? And perhaps most critically, what does this decision say about the crumbling foundation of the Sussex brand and Harry's once unshakable vision? The Invictus Games, born from Harry's first-hand understanding of the mental and physical toll of war, have long stood as a symbol of dignity, resilience, and healing. The emotional scenes of wounded warriors proudly representing their countries, cheered on by family, comrades, and royalty, resonated with millions around the world. For a time, it seemed Harry had found his true calling, one that transcended tabloid noise and grounded him in purpose. But everything changed when Meghan Markle entered the scene. Initially praised for her charm and grace, her later appearances at Invictus events began to shift the spotlight. Media coverage focused less on the veterans and more on her wardrobe, her speeches, and her strained interactions with officials. Rumors swirled. Whispers grew louder. Sponsors grew uneasy. And Dominic Reid, the ever-calm executive leading the logistical and operational heartbeat of Invictus, was keeping score. The final straw came after a series of high-level complaints from key sponsors and veteran representatives. Multiple sources close to the organization say internal tensions had reached a boiling point. There was no way forward without firm boundaries. Meghan, they argued, had become a liability, not because of who she was, but because of what she represented: a distraction, a potential scandal magnet, and a divisive figure threatening the game's apolitical and humanitarian identity. So Reid, in what some are calling the boldest move of his career, took the matter to Prince Harry directly. Sources indicate that the meeting was private, intense, and emotionally charged. Reid didn't mince words. The brand was at stake. The veterans deserved focus. And the choice had to be made now. Meghan Markle would not be welcome at Invictus 2026. As this shocking decision reverberates across royal circles, media networks, and veteran communities, one question looms larger than any other. Will Prince Harry choose his legacy or his loyalty? In the minutes ahead, we'll uncover the secret memos, the sponsor threats, the internal divisions, and the explosive personal fallout that led to this ultimatum. Stay with us. The story is just beginning. The Invictus Games were never meant to be about royalty, celebrity, or global headlines. At their heart, they are a celebration of resilience. Men and women who were broken by war, rising again to compete, to recover, and to inspire. When Prince Harry launched the inaugural Games in 2014, few could have predicted how deeply the event would resonate across countries, cultures, and continents. Yet, 10 years later, as plans for the 2026 Invictus Games in Vancouver and Whistler take shape, the event finds itself at a crossroads not of logistics, but of identity. This story matters now because the very soul of the Invictus Games is being tested. The recent revelations about Meghan Markle being effectively banished from the upcoming Games are not simply royal gossip or tabloid fodder. They are symptoms of a larger, deeper crisis. One involving the trust between veterans and the institutions that claim to serve them, the boundaries between personal ambition and public service, and the fragility of reputations in an era where perception often outruns truth. For years, The Invictus Games have managed to walk a careful tightrope between military pride and celebrity endorsement, drawing just enough royal glamour to boost visibility without compromising authenticity. But with Meghan's increasingly prominent presence at past games, especially in the 2022 and 2023 editions, that delicate balance began to falter. What was once a platform for silent heroes turned into a media circus, where every camera lens was trained more on Meghan's expressions, outfits, and interactions than the wounded soldiers competing on the track. And that shift didn't go unnoticed. Veteran participants began voicing discomfort, not publicly at first, but internally. Meetings were held, complaints documented. Sponsors, many of whom value a nonpartisan, scandal-free brand, started quietly questioning whether their continued support was worth the risk. The risk wasn't merely hypothetical. With Meghan's name attached, headlines often deviated from sportsmanship to scandal, legal battles with media outlets, rifts with the royal family, and criticisms of her Netflix-driven public image. Dominic Reid, the CEO of the Invictus Games Foundation, understood the stakes better than anyone. A seasoned organizer with deep ties to both military and civilian sectors, Reid has always been more than an administrator. He is the strategic guardian of Invictus' mission. His job isn't to court headlines. It's to ensure that every wounded veteran who takes the field is given the respect, visibility, and dignity they deserve. So when the integrity of that mission appeared to be under threat, he acted. This wasn't a hasty decision made out of personal bias or media pressure. It was the culmination of months of internal reviews, donor consultations, and direct feedback from Invictus stakeholders. The issue wasn't Meghan's personality, it was the optics. Her presence had become inseparable from controversy. And for an event built on unity, healing, and service, that was unacceptable. Now, as we look ahead to the 2026 Games, it's clear that this moment represents more than a temporary PR storm. It is a defining inflection point. Will the Invictus Games double down on their founding purpose and restore their credibility as a veterans-first platform? Or will they continue to blur the lines between rehabilitation and red carpet, risking not just sponsors but the very people they aim to honor? For Prince Harry, this is no ordinary dilemma. He is not just the founder of the Invictus Games. He is its face, its patron, its spirit. For years, Invictus was the one area where Harry's post-royal life carried unambiguous goodwill. It was the project even his critics acknowledged as meaningful. But now, even that sanctuary has been shaken. By allowing his personal life to overlap so visibly with a global nonprofit, he exposed Invictus to scrutiny it was never designed to withstand. Observers within the royal family have reportedly watched this unfold with growing unease. Palace aides have, according to insiders, long cautioned Harry about overexposing Invictus to commercial influences. There were whispers that Meghan's association, especially as she explored brand deals, documentaries, and sponsorships, was damaging the event's apolitical image. And now, with Dominic Reid's unprecedented ultimatum, that caution has turned into action. The reason this story matters now is because of what it reveals about the intersection of personal ambition, institutional mission, and public accountability. Meghan Markle's ban from the 2026 Invictus Games is not just about one woman. It is about a broader reckoning in how charitable causes manage celebrity involvement. It's about how quickly goodwill can evaporate when authenticity is questioned. And it's about how far even a prince must go to protect what he built. The stakes couldn't be higher. With over 20 nations scheduled to participate in 2026 and millions of dollars in sponsorships, the spotlight on Vancouver and Whistler will be intense. If the Games are seen as compromised or politically entangled, that could damage partnerships, reduce athlete morale, and ultimately threaten the long-term survival of the event. Already, social media reaction has been sharply divided. Some defend Meghan, arguing that she brought attention and glamour to a deserving cause. Others insist that her presence had become toxic, too polarizing for an event meant to unify. What's clear is that the Invictus Games are now fighting for more than medals. They're fighting to reclaim their narrative. So what happens next? Can Prince Harry rebuild trust with sponsors and participants? Will he appear at the Games alone, separated professionally and publicly from his wife? Or will this be the final straw that causes deeper personal and professional ruptures in the Sussex household? We're only at the beginning of what promises to be a highly charged and revealing journey. Over the next several chapters, we'll dig into the secret meetings, the sponsor warnings, the role of the royal family, and how Dominic Reid stepped up when no one else would. This story is about more than one decision. It's about everything that led to it, and everything that might come crashing down because of it. What's at stake is not just the future of a sports event. It's the legacy of a prince, the brand of a royal couple, and the integrity of a global movement meant to heal, not divide. The Invictus Games have always been about second chances. But in 2026, there may not be one. The Invictus Games began as an idea born from pain, hope, and determination. In 2013, Prince Harry, still an active member of the British Army and deeply affected by his experiences in Afghanistan, envisioned a competition where wounded, injured, or sick service personnel could reclaim their dignity and showcase their resilience. Inspired by the Warrior Games in the United States and driven by a desire to break down barriers around mental and physical health, Harry's vision was clear: create a global stage for recovery and triumph over adversity. The first Invictus Games were held in London in 2014, drawing competitors from 13 nations and capturing the hearts of millions worldwide. The name itself, Invictus, meaning unconquered in Latin, reflected the spirit of the athletes who took part. For the wounded veterans, it was a chance not only to compete but to heal, to rebuild their lives and identities beyond their injuries. Prince Harry's role in the Games was more than ceremonial. He trained alongside participants, spent hours speaking to soldiers and their families, and became a tireless advocate for veteran causes. His personal story, serving in combat zones, losing close friends, and witnessing the scars of war firsthand, lent authenticity and urgency to the project. The media initially celebrated the Games as a refreshing and heartfelt departure from royal pageantry. Coverage focused on the athletes' achievements and emotional journeys, with Harry portrayed as a compassionate leader championing a worthy cause. This foundation set the tone for the Invictus Games as a platform centered on healing and respect. Over the years, the Games expanded dramatically. By 2016, more than 15 countries were participating, and the event had moved to Orlando, Florida, attracting huge crowds and global attention. The increase in scale brought new challenges, but Harry remained deeply involved. He insisted the Games maintain their core values: athlete focus, inclusivity, and above all, a genuine commitment to veterans' well-being. It was during this period that Meghan Markle entered Harry's life, first meeting him in 2016. As their relationship grew public, questions emerged about how Meghan's influence might shape the Invictus Games. Initially, there was optimism. Meghan's background in acting and humanitarian work seemed like a natural fit to help elevate the Games' profile and broaden their reach. However, the dynamics began to shift. Meghan's first public appearances with Harry at Invictus events were carefully scripted and met with mixed reactions. Some praised her for bringing warmth and modernity. Others noted that the spotlight was starting to move away from the athletes toward the couple's celebrity status. This tension simmered beneath the surface for years. Veteran participants who had originally found solace and recognition in the Games started to feel sidelined by increasing media focus on the Sussexes' personal lives. The line between advocacy and celebrity became blurry. More than once, Harry was reported to have defended Meghan's role at Invictus, emphasizing her commitment to charitable work and veteran causes. Yet behind the scenes, unease grew among organizers and veterans alike. Meanwhile, Dominic Reed's role was expanding. A retired British Army officer and a highly respected leader, Reed was appointed CEO of the Invictus Games Foundation in 2016. His military background gave him credibility with veterans and organizers, and his pragmatic leadership helped guide the Games through periods of growth and challenge. Reed understood the delicate balance required to keep the Games' mission intact amid increasing public scrutiny. He worked closely with Harry to preserve the athlete-first focus and maintain the event's reputation as a serious and respectful competition. However, the widening gulf between the Sussexes' public image and the Invictus Games' core mission became harder to reconcile. Meghan's increasing visibility at events, often accompanied by media frenzy and corporate partnerships, began to draw criticism. Veterans expressed frustration that their stories were sometimes overshadowed by celebrity drama. Sponsors worried about brand association with controversy. The narrative was shifting from recovery and resilience to tabloid headlines and social media battles. By the time the 2024 Invictus Games concluded, these issues had reached a critical point. While the Games continued to celebrate remarkable athletes, the growing divide between the Sussex brand and the Invictus mission posed a threat to the event's future. It was clear that the legacy Harry had worked so hard to build was on the line. Would the Invictus Games remain a platform for healing and hope, or would they become another casualty of celebrity conflict? This question set the stage for the showdown that followed, a confrontation between Dominic Reed's stewardship and Harry's loyalty to Meghan, with the fate of the 2026 Games hanging in the balance. As we move forward, the story deepens. We'll explore how Meghan's involvement shifted from supportive partner to perceived liability, the internal struggles within the foundation, and the defining moments when choices had to be made. The stakes are not just professional. They are intensely personal, with consequences that will echo far beyond Vancouver and Whistler. The Invictus Games began as a beacon of light in a difficult world. Now, at this pivotal moment, that light flickers precariously. What comes next will reveal much about leadership, legacy, and the true cost of. At first, Meghan Markle's involvement with the Invictus Games seemed like a natural extension of her and Prince Harry's shared commitment to humanitarian causes. Her initial appearances were warmly received. Her speeches emphasized empowerment, resilience, and the importance of giving voice to those who had sacrificed so much. For many observers, Meghan brought a fresh energy and an expanded media spotlight that helped raise global awareness for the Games. However, as the years progressed, Meghan's presence began to alter the dynamics of the event. What started as supportive engagement slowly morphed into a media spectacle. Photographers and reporters increasingly focused their attention on Meghan's fashion choices, her body language, and her exchanges with dignitaries, rather than the athletes competing in grueling adaptive sports. Behind the scenes, veterans and organizers started noticing subtle but meaningful shifts. Some athletes reported feeling overshadowed, their stories drowned out by coverage of Meghan's personal life and her burgeoning media empire. A few expressed discomfort with the increasing intrusion of entertainment media, which seemed more interested in celebrity drama than in honoring the spirit of the Games. One participant from the 2022 Games shared, "We came to compete, to heal, to show the world our strength." But it sometimes felt like the cameras were only there for Meghan. This sentiment, echoed quietly among some veterans, began to create tension within the Invictus community. The issues were compounded by Meghan's involvement in high-profile media projects around the same period, including her Netflix deal and other ventures. Some sponsors and stakeholders worried that her growing celebrity profile could bring unwanted controversy, overshadowing the Games' mission and potentially jeopardizing funding. While Meghan and Harry maintained that their shared focus remained on advocacy for wounded service members, the public narrative became complicated. Tabloid headlines shifted from Invictus inspirational stories to scandals involving the Sussexes' personal and professional conflicts. Social media debates polarized supporters and critics alike, fracturing what had been a united front around the Invictus cause. Meghan's well-documented clashes with certain media outlets and her and Harry's legal battles added layers of distraction. Every public appearance at Invictus events risked becoming a headline about royal disputes, lawsuits, or Netflix controversies, rather than the courage of the athletes. Dominic Reed, tasked with safeguarding the event's reputation, found himself in a delicate position. He recognized Meghan's contributions but also heard growing concerns from veterans and sponsors. The question loomed large. How could the Invictus Games maintain their identity as a veterans-first, nonpartisan event amid increasing celebrity focus and media scrutiny? This period saw mounting internal discussions about boundaries, public relations strategies, and the long-term vision for the Games. Was Meghan's high-profile involvement helping or hurting the cause? How could the foundation navigate the tension between celebrity-driven visibility and authentic veteran empowerment? The debate intensified after the 2023 Games, where leaked footage and behind-the-scenes accounts revealed friction between Meghan's team and some organizers. Sources described clashes over media access, event protocols, and messaging priorities. Veterans reported feeling sidelined during key moments, replaced by photo ops centered around the Sussexes. For some, this was a turning point. The Invictus Games risked losing their essence if the focus shifted away from athletes to celebrity spectacle. The foundation needed to act decisively to protect the core mission. Public opinion also began to fracture. Supporters of Meghan argued that her presence brought much-needed attention and resources. Critics warned that the Games were being compromised by association with ongoing royal controversies. As the 2026 Games approached, these tensions reached a boiling point. Dominic Reed's leadership became central to resolving the crisis. The question was no longer if Meghan would participate, but how to manage the fallout, and whether a line had been crossed that could not be uncrossed. This chapter in the Invictus Games story highlights the complex interplay between intention and perception, celebrity and service, personal ambition and public mission. It sets the stage for the dramatic confrontation that would follow, one that forced Prince Harry to face difficult choices about legacy, loyalty, and leadership. The turning point in the escalating tensions surrounding Meghan Markle's involvement with the Invictus Games came in the form of a confidential internal communication. A memo penned by Dominic Reed, the CEO of the Invictus Games Foundation. This document, which was leaked to select media outlets and veteran advocacy groups, painted a stark picture of the deepening crisis threatening the integrity of the 2026 event. Dominic Reed's memo was not an emotional outburst but a measured, strategic analysis of the challenges facing the organization. Written in early 2024, it reflected months of conversations, observations, and mounting concerns voiced by sponsors, athletes, and internal staff. The memo outlined specific issues linked to Meghan Markle's continued presence at Invictus events and its potential repercussions on the Foundation's mission. At its core, the memo emphasized a simple but urgent message: the Invictus Games could no longer risk becoming a platform for personal or political controversies. Reed highlighted that while Meghan's initial involvement brought visibility, recent years had shown a growing disconnect between the Foundation's objectives and the public narrative surrounding her. The document detailed numerous examples, media coverage focusing more on Meghan's fashion choices or personal disputes than on the achievements of the competing veterans. It cited feedback from sponsors worried about associating their brands with what was becoming, in their words, a high-profile PR minefield. Veteran representatives, according to Reed's memo, expressed feelings of being overshadowed or even exploited for celebrity-driven storylines. Perhaps the most striking section of the memo was a clear warning. If the current trajectory continued, the Foundation risked losing vital funding, key partnerships, and the trust of the very veterans it sought to honor. The memo called for decisive leadership to address the issue before the damage became irreversible. Behind the scenes, this communication was met with a mixture of support and apprehension. Some senior members of the Foundation applauded Reed's courage in confronting a sensitive subject head-on. Others worried about the fallout, both with Prince Harry, the Games founder, and with Meghan Markle, whose global profile could not be ignored. Sources close to the Foundation revealed that Reed had privately conveyed similar concerns to Harry during a series of discreet meetings. According to insiders, the tone of these conversations was respectful but firm. Reed urged Harry to reconsider Meghan's role, emphasizing the risks to the Games' reputation and the growing dissatisfaction among stakeholders. Harry, caught between loyalty to his wife and responsibility to the Invictus mission, found himself in an unprecedented dilemma. The memo underscored that leadership required tough choices, and this was one of the most difficult he had faced since stepping back from royal duties. The leaked memo also shed light on Reed's strategic thinking. He proposed clear guidelines for public appearances, media access, and messaging to ensure the Games remained focused on the athletes. Most controversially, Reed recommended that Meghan Markle should not participate in the 2026 Games in any official capacity, citing concerns that her involvement had become too divisive. The memo made it clear this was not a personal attack, but a necessary step to preserve the Foundation's credibility. Reed argued that the Invictus Games were bigger than any individual, and protecting its mission required setting boundaries, even when those boundaries affected people close to the organization's founder. The leak of the memo sent shockwaves through the media and royal circles. It exposed the growing fracture between the Sussexes and the Invictus leadership, turning what had been a private struggle into a very public saga. Speculation ran rampant. Would Prince Harry accept this ultimatum? How would Meghan respond? What impact would this have on the 2026 Games and beyond? Veteran advocacy groups, many of whom had quietly supported Reed's stance, began to voice cautious optimism. They hoped the Foundation could reclaim its original purpose and ensure the Games remained a sanctuary for those who served. Meanwhile, sponsors and corporate partners closely monitored the unfolding drama. Some were reportedly preparing contingency plans should the controversy escalate further. The significance of the Dominic Reed memo cannot be overstated. It marked a turning point where leadership demanded accountability, clarity, and, above all, protection of the Invictus Games' core values. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test loyalties, reputations, and the very future of the event. Sponsors are the lifeblood of any major event, and the Invictus Games have been no exception. From the earliest days, corporate partners saw the Games as a unique opportunity to support veterans while associating their brands with resilience, courage, and international goodwill. But as Meghan Markle's involvement became increasingly visible and controversial, cracks began to appear in these vital relationships. Sources inside the Invictus Games Foundation have revealed that several key sponsors started raising concerns as early as 2022. Some expressed unease with the growing media frenzy around the Sussexes, worried that the Games' carefully cultivated image was being overshadowed by tabloid headlines and royal family drama. One major sponsor, speaking on condition of anonymity, admitted, "We signed up to support veterans in their incredible stories, not to be caught up in celebrity controversies." These concerns grew louder following high-profile incidents where Meghan's public appearances drew mixed reactions. Sponsors feared negative associations could jeopardize their brand image, especially as social media sentiment became increasingly polarized. Advertisers are notoriously sensitive to controversy, and for companies investing millions, risk mitigation is paramount. As the 2024 Games wrapped up, internal discussions about sponsorship viability intensified. Reports suggest that some sponsors threatened to withdraw funding if Meghan continued to have a prominent role in future events. This put the Invictus Games Foundation under immense pressure, as securing financial support for the 2026 Games in Vancouver Whistler was already a monumental task. Dominic Reid, aware of these concerns, reportedly took a firm stance during meetings with sponsors. He reassured them that the foundation was committed to preserving the Games' core mission and maintaining an apolitical, veteran-focused event. However, Reid also conveyed that drastic measures might be necessary to protect these partnerships, measures that included limiting Meghan Markle's involvement. This stance was not without risk. Prince Harry's deep personal connection to the Games and his marriage to Meghan complicated the situation. Sponsors understood that excluding Meghan would be controversial, but many felt it was a necessary step to stabilize the event's future. Veteran groups echoed these concerns, emphasizing the importance of a distraction-free environment where athletes could compete and be celebrated without external turmoil. A prominent veterans advocate stated, "Our focus should be on the heroes on the field, not the headlines in the papers. Sponsors help us keep the lights on. Losing them isn't an option." Behind the scenes, the financial stakes were enormous. The Invictus Games Foundation relies heavily on sponsorships to cover event costs, athlete support, and outreach programs. Losing major backers could force cutbacks or even jeopardize the viability of the Games altogether. Meghan's growing media presence, including her Netflix projects and public statements on contentious issues, only fueled sponsor apprehension. The risk of being entangled in ongoing legal disputes or public controversies was simply too great for many companies. As negotiations unfolded, some sponsors demanded clear assurances that future Games would be free of celebrity distractions. According to insiders, this demand directly influenced Dominic Reid's decision to deliver the ultimatum to Prince Harry. The sponsorship meltdown exposed a critical tension at the heart of the Invictus Games' recent challenges, balancing public visibility and fundraising success with the foundational mission of honoring veterans in a respectful, focused way. As the 2026 Games approach, the Foundation's ability to secure and maintain sponsorships remains a barometer of its future. The fallout from Meghan Markle's banishment will reverberate not just through royal circles, but through boardrooms and marketing departments worldwide. This financial pressure cooker has forced leadership to make hard choices that will define the tone, perception, and success of the upcoming Invictus Games. In the next section, we will hear directly from veterans themselves, who have been watching these developments with a mixture of frustration, hope, and concern. Their voices are central to understanding the true impact of this crisis. At the heart of the Invictus Games are the veterans themselves, the men and women whose sacrifices and resilience give meaning to the event. For them, the Games have always been about camaraderie, healing, and recognition, far removed from the celebrity glare that often follows the royal spotlight. Over the past few years, however, many veterans have quietly expressed growing unease about how Meghan Markle's involvement shifted the atmosphere and focus of the Games. Several veterans who have participated in multiple Invictus Games shared candid accounts with trusted sources, describing a gradual transformation. One former soldier from Canada, who preferred to remain anonymous, explained, "When I first competed, the games felt like a brotherhood. The focus was on our achievements, our recovery. But in recent years, it started to feel like a movie set. Cameras everywhere, scripted moments, and less attention on us." This sentiment echoed through conversations with veterans from the UK, Australia, and the United States. Many expressed frustration that media coverage increasingly centered on celebrity appearances rather than the athletes' struggles and victories. Some even felt that Meghan's public profile sometimes diverted attention and resources away from the veterans themselves. A decorated British veteran who now works as a mentor for wounded soldiers voiced his concerns. "Invictus should be about real people, real stories. It isn't about Hollywood glitz or royal drama. When that line gets blurred, it hurts the spirit of what we're trying to achieve." The sense of alienation among veterans was further compounded by reports of backstage tension during recent games. Sources described instances where some athletes felt sidelined during photo ops or media interviews, replaced by segments focused on the Sussexes. These moments sparked whispered conversations about whether the Invictus Games were losing sight of their original purpose. Despite this, many veterans acknowledged Meghan's charitable intentions and admired her advocacy on various causes. The issue, they emphasized, was not personal but about preserving the integrity and focus of the event. One American veteran succinctly put it, "We're not against Meghan as a person. We just want the games to be about us." Veterans organizations have weighed in as well. Several advocacy groups have released statements emphasizing the importance of keeping the Invictus Games centered on service members and veterans. They stress that the games should remain apolitical and free from distractions that could undermine their mission. These voices have not gone unheard. Dominic Reid, as CEO, has reportedly taken these concerns seriously, engaging in direct dialogues with veteran representatives to ensure their perspectives shape decision-making. The decision to exclude Meghan Markle from the 2026 Games reflects, in part, the desire to respond to these calls from within the veteran community. Veterans also expressed hope that the Games could return to being a place where athletes feel genuinely valued and celebrated without the weight of external controversies. Many expressed optimism that with Reid's leadership and renewed focus, the spirit of Invictus could be restored. Yet, underlying this optimism is a recognition of the difficult realities. The intersection of celebrity, royalty, and charitable work is complex, and disentangling the layers of public perception and internal dynamics is no simple task. Veterans are aware that the coming months will be critical in shaping the future of the Games and their role within it. This chapter of the story highlights a fundamental truth. No matter how grand the platform, the Invictus Games belong first and foremost to those who participate. Their voices are vital in understanding what has been lost and what might still be saved. Behind the public headlines and media frenzy lies the royal family's intricate and often discreet involvement in the evolving Invictus Games saga. King Charles III and Prince William, both closely connected to the military and royal charitable causes, have been watching the unfolding drama with a mix of concern and strategic calculation. King Charles, a longtime advocate for veterans and patron of numerous military charities, has always valued the Invictus Games as a meaningful extension of royal service. His commitment to honoring the sacrifices of service members runs deep, and he understands the importance of maintaining the dignity and focus of events like Invictus. Sources within Buckingham Palace suggest that Charles has been quietly advising key stakeholders to protect the Games from becoming entangled in personal controversies that could diminish their impact. Prince William, as the future king and a figure increasingly involved in public duties related to the armed forces, shares this pragmatic perspective. His own military background and patronage roles position him as a guardian of tradition and continuity within the monarchy. Insiders report that William has expressed concern about the potential damage to the Games' reputation stemming from Meghan Markle's heightened involvement. While the palace maintains an official stance of neutrality regarding the Sussexes' private decisions, behind closed doors there has been clear messaging emphasizing the importance of preserving the Invictus Games' apolitical and veteran-centric mission. Advisors close to the royal household have reportedly communicated this to both Dominic Reid and Prince Harry in various capacities. The tension between supporting Harry's charitable work and managing the Sussexes' public image has been a delicate balancing act for the royal family. The leaked Dominic Reed memo and the subsequent ban on Meghan from the 2026 games did not come as a surprise to palace insiders, who had long been aware of growing concerns within the foundation and among sponsors. King Charles and Prince William's approach appears to be one of firm but measured influence. They have refrained from public commentary, allowing Invictus leadership to handle the situation while ensuring that the game's future remains safeguarded. This subtle intervention reflects a broader strategy within the monarchy to manage crises without exacerbating public scrutiny or media speculation. However, this quiet involvement has not gone unnoticed by observers and royal watchers. Some interpret it as a sign of the palace drawing clearer lines around the Sussexes' sphere of influence, signaling limits to their involvement in official or semi-official royal endeavors. Others see it as a protective measure aimed at preventing further damage to causes dear to the family. The situation has added new layers to the already strained relationship between the Sussexes and the royal family. Prince Harry's position is increasingly complex, torn between loyalty to his wife and his responsibility as founder of the Invictus Games. The palace's subtle yet firm stance underscores the challenges he faces navigating these competing pressures. As the 2026 games approach, the role of the monarchy will be critical in shaping public perception and maintaining stability. King Charles and Prince William's influence, while largely behind the scenes, sends a clear message. The Invictus Games must remain a beacon for veterans, free from distraction and division. This chapter reveals the intricate web of royal diplomacy, family dynamics, and institutional responsibility that frames the crisis. It also sets the stage for the difficult choices Prince Harry will have to make. Choices that could define his legacy and his place within the royal narrative. The ultimatum delivered by Dominic Reed to Prince Harry marked a seismic shift, not just within the Invictus Games Foundation, but also within the Sussex household. Sources close to the couple reveal that the decision to ban Meghan Markle from the 2026 Invictus Games sparked a period of intense private conflict and public maneuvering, exposing fissures that many had hoped to keep behind closed doors. Initially, the news was met with disbelief and frustration by Harry. The Invictus Games had been one of his proudest achievements, a legacy separate from royal protocol and media scrutiny. To have such a critical aspect of his work entwined with his personal life, specifically his wife's exclusion, was a bitter blow. Insiders describe a deeply emotional period for Harry, caught between his loyalty to Meghan and his responsibility to the games and their beneficiaries. Meghan's reaction, too, was complex. While publicly maintaining her commitment to charitable causes, private confidants report that she felt unfairly targeted and sidelined. The ongoing media spotlight on this controversy added to existing tensions in their personal and professional lives. The Sussexes, who had already faced relentless scrutiny since stepping back from senior royal duties, now faced a new front of criticism. Behind the scenes, the couple sought legal and PR advice on how best to respond. Meghan's team reportedly considered various strategies to contest or mitigate the ban, including leveraging their extensive media networks and public support among certain audiences. However, the tight-knit nature of the Invictus Games community and the Foundation's firm stance made direct confrontation difficult. Publicly, Harry took a measured approach. In a rare interview following the announcement, he expressed unwavering support for the Invictus mission and acknowledged the importance of keeping the games focused on veterans. However, he also emphasized the personal toll of the decision, hinting at the broader challenges he and Meghan faced as a couple navigating public life. His words struck a careful balance, avoiding outright criticism of the Foundation while signaling his personal disappointment. Meghan, for her part, chose silence in the public arena regarding the ban, focusing instead on her other philanthropic efforts and media projects. This silence was interpreted by some as strategic restraint, by others as frustration and marginalization. The fallout extended beyond media narratives. Within their inner circle, sources describe heightened stress and divisions. Friends and advisors expressed concern about the couple's ability to manage the escalating pressure. The Sussexes' relationship with key royal family members grew even more strained, further isolating them from institutional support. Meanwhile, Dominic Reed and the Invictus leadership remained resolute. They reiterated that the decision was about protecting the games and was not a personal slight. This distinction, however, was lost on many fans and critics alike, who polarized into camps defending Meghan or supporting the Foundation's autonomy. The controversy also reignited broader debates about the role of celebrity and royalty in charitable organizations. Critics questioned whether personal brands should influence events meant to honor collective sacrifice. Supporters argued that visibility, even if imperfect, was essential to raising awareness and funding. For Prince Harry and Meghan, the stakes were intensely personal and public. The ban was more than an operational decision. It was a symbolic rupture, signaling limits to their influence within certain royal-affiliated causes and the growing challenges of balancing their public identities with private goals. As the 2026 Invictus Games approach, the couple's response and next moves will be pivotal. Will Harry continue to champion Invictus solo? Will Meghan find alternative platforms for her advocacy? Or will this chapter mark a turning point in their evolving public and philanthropic journey? The decision to exclude Meghan Markle from the 2026 Invictus Games unleashed a torrent of media coverage and public debate, turning what had been a quietly simmering internal conflict into a global spectacle. News outlets around the world seized upon the story, with headlines ranging from sympathetic to sensational, and social media platforms erupted with divided opinions. Traditional media framed the controversy through different lenses. Some outlets portrayed Meghan as a victim of institutional gatekeeping and royal family politics, emphasizing the personal toll of the ban. Others depicted the decision as a necessary step to protect the sanctity of the Invictus Games, highlighting concerns voiced by veterans and sponsors about celebrity distractions. Social media became a battleground. Supporters of Meghan rallied behind hashtags championing her charitable work and criticizing what they saw as unfair exclusion. Opponents argued that the Games needed to stay focused and free from controversies associated with the Sussexes. The polarized online discourse reflected broader cultural debates about celebrity influence, mental health advocacy, and royal family dynamics. Media commentators dissected every aspect of the saga: the leaked Dominic Reid memo, the royal family's behind-the-scenes role, Harry and Meghan's public statements, and the potential impact on the Games' future. Some experts argued that this controversy underscored the challenges of balancing personal ambition with institutional responsibility in high-profile philanthropic endeavors. Public opinion polls reflected the divided sentiment. While many expressed admiration for the Invictus Games and their mission, a significant portion voiced concern about how the Sussexes' involvement had complicated the narrative. These divisions echoed across age groups, nationalities, and political affiliations, demonstrating the far-reaching resonance of the issue. The media storm also placed pressure on other stakeholders. Sponsors and partners faced scrutiny for their associations, some of whom issued statements reaffirming their support for veterans while distancing themselves from the controversy. Veteran groups used the attention to reiterate their calls for the Games to remain focused on athlete empowerment and healing. The intensity of coverage revealed a central challenge for the Invictus Games Foundation: how to reclaim the narrative in a media environment often driven by personality clashes and sensationalism rather than substance. Dominic Reid and his team embarked on a strategic communications campaign to emphasize the Games' core values, highlight athlete stories, and reassure sponsors and participants. At the same time, the Sussexes navigated the complex terrain of media engagement, carefully choosing when and how to speak out, mindful of the risks and opportunities the controversy presented. Their media advisors worked to shape a narrative that balanced empathy with resilience, advocacy with privacy. This media storm illustrates the modern reality of high-profile charitable work, where legacy and leadership are constantly negotiated in the public eye, and where controlling the narrative is as crucial as the mission itself. As the 2026 Invictus Games draw near, the Foundation and the Sussexes face the ongoing challenge of defining their roles and restoring focus amid a cacophony of competing voices. The next section will delve into the preparations for the Games themselves, exploring how the organizers are moving forward in the shadow of controversy and what this means for the athletes who will take the field. The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle's ban from the 2026 Invictus Games is more than a singular event. It reflects broader tensions at the intersection of royal charity work, celebrity influence, and the evolving landscape of modern philanthropy. This chapter explores how this saga resonates beyond the Games, prompting critical questions about leadership, authenticity, and the role of public figures in charitable causes. Historically, royal patronage of charities has lent prestige, visibility, and credibility to causes, often galvanizing support and resources. The Invictus Games, initiated by Prince Harry, is a prime example of how royal involvement can create powerful platforms for social change. Yet, as this story shows, the blending of royal status with celebrity culture introduces new complexities. Celebrity philanthropy, while offering amplified reach and fundraising potential, also risks shifting focus from beneficiaries to personalities. In Meghan Markle's case, her global media presence, magnified by her acting career and high-profile marriage, both elevated and complicated the Invictus Games narrative. Public fascination with her personal life sometimes overshadowed the athlete's stories, raising concerns among organizers and stakeholders. This tension highlights a critical challenge for modern philanthropy, balancing the benefits of celebrity engagement with the need to maintain authentic, mission-driven work. Charitable organizations increasingly rely on influential figures to attract attention, yet must safeguard against distractions that dilute their impact. The Invictus Games controversy underscores how deeply intertwined public perception, media narratives, and institutional priorities have become. It raises important questions about who controls the narrative and how organizations navigate competing interests in an era dominated by social media and instantaneous communication. Furthermore, the saga exposes the delicate dynamics within royal families adapting to contemporary expectations. The Sussexes' departure from traditional royal roles and embrace of media entrepreneurship marks a shift in how royal philanthropy is conducted. This evolution challenges established norms and invites scrutiny about boundaries, roles, and responsibilities. Experts in nonprofit leadership suggest that this situation will serve as a case study for other organizations grappling with similar issues. The importance of clear governance, stakeholder communication, and mission fidelity is paramount. The need to define roles and set expectations for high-profile participants is critical to preventing conflicts that can jeopardize causes. Public reactions to the controversy also reveal shifting attitudes towards celebrity and charity. While many admire the capacity of public figures to mobilize resources, there is growing demand for transparency, accountability, and respect for the communities served. Looking forward, the Invictus Games Foundation and similar organizations will likely refine their approaches to celebrity partnerships, establishing firm guidelines, prioritizing beneficiary voices, and fostering inclusive leadership may become standard practice to navigate this evolving terrain. For the royal family, this episode may influence how future generations engage with philanthropy, balancing tradition with innovation, public expectations with personal ambitions. Ultimately, this chapter of the Invictus Games story invites reflection on the future of charity in a media-saturated world. It challenges leaders, participants, and observers to consider how best to honor the spirit of service while adapting to contemporary realities. As the dust settles on one of the most tumultuous chapters in the history of the Invictus Games, it is essential to reflect on the enduring legacy and the hard-earned lessons this saga imparts. The story of the 2026 Games controversy is not just about conflict or exclusion. It is a testament to resilience, adaptation, and the evolving nature of leadership in complex times. The Invictus Games were born from a powerful vision to use sport as a means of healing, empowerment, and visibility for wounded, injured, and ill-service members. Despite the challenges posed by media scrutiny and celebrity involvement, the core mission remains as vital as ever. The Games continue to inspire millions and provide a unique platform for veteran recovery and community. One key lesson from this crisis is the paramount importance of mission clarity. Organizations operating at the intersection of public attention, charity, and celebrity must define and protect their core purpose. The Invictus Games' decision to prioritize the athletes and their stories above personal or media narratives demonstrates the necessity of steadfast focus. Leadership matters deeply. Dominic Reed's willingness to confront difficult truths and make unpopular decisions underscored the role of courage and accountability in stewarding a cause. Similarly, the royal family's measured involvement reflected the delicate balance of influence and discretion required to navigate modern philanthropic landscapes. The controversy also highlights the complexities of personal relationships intertwined with public missions. For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the crisis revealed tensions between private loyalty and public responsibility. It serves as a reminder that leadership on a global stage demands difficult choices and, at times, personal sacrifice. Moreover, this episode reveals the shifting expectations of philanthropy in a digital age. Transparency, inclusivity, and stakeholder engagement have become critical. Charitable organizations must embrace open communication and empower beneficiary voices to sustain trust and relevance. The media's role in shaping narratives is undeniable. This story exemplifies both the power and peril of media attention, how it can elevate causes but also distort and distract. Navigating this duality is an ongoing challenge for all high-profile charities. For the veterans and athletes, the Games remain a sanctuary, a place where courage and determination shine brightest. Their resilience in the face of controversy is a testament to the enduring spirit the Invictus Games were created to celebrate. Looking ahead, the Foundation has an opportunity to rebuild and strengthen. The lessons learned can inform future governance, partnerships, and community engagement. With renewed focus and unity, the Invictus Games can continue to be a beacon of hope and healing. This concluding scene brings the story full circle, acknowledging the hardships while celebrating the perseverance and commitment that define the Invictus legacy. It challenges viewers to consider the complexities behind the headlines and to appreciate the dedication required to lead meaningful change. As we conclude this deep dive into the complex and unfolding story of the Invictus Games, it's important to consider the role each of us can play in supporting the values and people at the heart of this movement. The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle's exclusion, the leadership challenges faced by Dominic Reid, and the involvement of the royal family highlight larger issues. But the true focus remains on the veterans whose courage and sacrifice inspire us all. First, understanding the stakes is essential. The Invictus Games are more than a sporting event. They represent healing, community, and recognition for those who have served and sacrificed. Supporting these principles can take many forms, whether through donations, volunteering, raising awareness, or simply sharing stories that honor veterans' resilience. For viewers inspired by the athletes' journeys, consider engaging with local veteran organizations or international charities connected to the Invictus mission. Every contribution, big or small, helps provide resources for recovery programs, mental health support, and opportunities for reintegration into civilian life. Reflection is also key. This story reveals how leadership, integrity, and mission clarity can be challenged but ultimately strengthened through adversity. It reminds us to critically evaluate the narratives we consume, question sensationalism, and seek the human stories beneath headlines. By staying informed and engaged, the public can help ensure that charities maintain focus on their core values and that those they serve remain at the center of attention. Advocating for transparency and accountability within nonprofit organizations contributes to their long-term success. Finally, this saga challenges us to think about the intersection of celebrity, charity, and public responsibility. It calls on influencers and leaders to wield their platforms thoughtfully, using visibility to uplift causes, not overshadow them. The Invictus Games crisis may seem distant, but its lessons are universal. They speak to the power of resilience, the importance of focused leadership, and the impact we can have when we come together to support those who serve. As you reflect on this story, consider what legacy you want to support and how you might contribute to causes that embody courage and community. Thank you for joining this journey into the heart of a complex and inspiring story. Please like, share, and subscribe to stay connected with more deep investigative coverage. And don't forget to leave your thoughts below. How do you see the future of the Invictus Games and the role of leadership in philanthropy? The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle's ban from the 2026 Invictus Games is more than a singular event. It reflects broader tensions at the intersection of royal charity work, celebrity influence, and the evolving landscape of modern philanthropy. This chapter explores how this saga resonates beyond the Games, prompting critical questions about leadership, authenticity, and the role of public figures in charitable causes. Historically, royal patronage of charities has lent prestige, visibility, and credibility to causes, often galvanizing support and resources. The Invictus Games, initiated by Prince Harry, is a prime example of how royal involvement can create powerful platforms for social change. Yet, as this story shows, the blending of royal status with celebrity culture introduces new complexities. Celebrity philanthropy, while offering amplified reach and fundraising potential, also risks shifting focus from beneficiaries to personalities. In Meghan Markle's case, her global media presence, magnified by her acting career and high-profile marriage, both elevated and complicated the Invictus Games narrative. Public fascination with her personal life sometimes overshadowed the athlete's stories, raising concerns among organizers and stakeholders. This tension highlights a critical challenge for modern philanthropy, balancing the benefits of celebrity engagement with the need to maintain authentic, mission-driven work. Charitable organizations increasingly rely on influential figures to attract attention, yet must safeguard against distractions that dilute their impact. The Invictus Games controversy underscores how deeply intertwined public perception, media narratives, and institutional priorities have become. It raises important questions about who controls the narrative and how organizations navigate competing interests in an era dominated by social media and instantaneous communication. Furthermore, the saga exposes the delicate dynamics within royal families adapting to contemporary expectations. The Sussexes' departure from traditional royal roles and embrace of media entrepreneurship marks a shift in how royal philanthropy is conducted. This evolution challenges established norms and invites scrutiny about boundaries, roles, and responsibilities. Experts in nonprofit leadership suggest that this situation will serve as a case study for other organizations grappling with similar issues. The importance of clear governance, stakeholder communication, and mission fidelity is paramount. The need to define roles and set expectations for high-profile participants is critical to preventing conflicts that can jeopardize causes. Public reactions to the controversy also reveal shifting attitudes towards celebrity and charity. While many admire the capacity of public figures to mobilize resources, there is growing demand for transparency, accountability, and respect for the communities served. Looking forward, the Invictus Games Foundation and similar organizations will likely refine their approaches to celebrity partnerships, establishing firm guidelines, prioritizing beneficiary voices, and fostering inclusive leadership may become standard practice to navigate this evolving terrain. For the royal family, this episode may influence how future generations engage with philanthropy, balancing tradition with innovation, public expectations with personal ambitions. Ultimately, this chapter of the Invictus Games story invites reflection on the future of charity in a media-saturated world. It challenges leaders, participants, and observers to consider how best to honor the spirit of service while adapting to contemporary realities. As the dust settles on one of the most tumultuous chapters in the history of the Invictus Games, it is essential to reflect on the enduring legacy and the hard-earned lessons this saga imparts. The story of the 2026 Games controversy is not just about conflict or exclusion. It is a testament to resilience, adaptation, and the evolving nature of leadership in complex times. The Invictus Games were born from a powerful vision to use sport as a means of healing, empowerment, and visibility for wounded, injured, and ill-service members. Despite the challenges posed by media scrutiny and celebrity involvement, the core mission remains as vital as ever. The Games continue to inspire millions and provide a unique platform for veteran recovery and community. One key lesson from this crisis is the paramount importance of mission clarity. Organizations operating at the intersection of public attention, charity, and celebrity must define and protect their core purpose. The Invictus Games' decision to prioritize the athletes and their stories above personal or media narratives demonstrates the necessity of steadfast focus. Leadership matters deeply. Dominic Reed's willingness to confront difficult truths and make unpopular decisions underscored the role of courage and accountability in stewarding a cause. Similarly, the royal family's measured involvement reflected the delicate balance of influence and discretion required to navigate modern philanthropic landscapes. The controversy also highlights the complexities of personal relationships intertwined with public missions. For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the crisis revealed tensions between private loyalty and public responsibility. It serves as a reminder that leadership on a global stage demands difficult choices and, at times, personal sacrifice. Moreover, this episode reveals the shifting expectations of philanthropy in a digital age. Transparency, inclusivity, and stakeholder engagement have become critical. Charitable organizations must embrace open communication and empower beneficiary voices to sustain trust and relevance. The media's role in shaping narratives is undeniable. This story exemplifies both the power and peril of media attention, how it can elevate causes but also distort and distract. Navigating this duality is an ongoing challenge for all high-profile charities. For the veterans and athletes, the Games remain a sanctuary, a place where courage and determination shine brightest. Their resilience in the face of controversy is a testament to the enduring spirit the Invictus Games were created to celebrate. Looking ahead, the Foundation has an opportunity to rebuild and strengthen. The lessons learned can inform future governance, partnerships, and community engagement. With renewed focus and unity, the Invictus Games can continue to be a beacon of hope and healing. This concluding scene brings the story full circle, acknowledging the hardships while celebrating the perseverance and commitment that define the Invictus legacy. It challenges viewers to consider the complexities behind the headlines and to appreciate the dedication required to lead meaningful change. As we conclude this deep dive into the complex and unfolding story of the Invictus Games, it's important to consider the role each of us can play in supporting the values and people at the heart of this movement. The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle's exclusion, the leadership challenges faced by Dominic Reid, and the involvement of the royal family.